everybody hear me? Yes? Yes, okay, now I can hear. Welcome again to all of you, and it's a great pleasure to kick off the session today. We've got some very distinguished guests that will introduce themselves, both past DM winners as well as some people who know the space very well. As all of you know, the World Bank Institute has an innovation practice of which now the DM is part of. And part of our challenge is to think through what is the role of this innovation practice and what is the link to the DM. The DM historically has been an event which has mobilized and catalyzed a lot of excitement around the bank, and people like you who we've been able to support with financial assistance. But the question is, what more can we do to support you to succeed? And what more can we do to help you reach more people and to scale? And the term scale is ambiguous. It doesn't mean the same thing to all of you, nor does the term innovation for that matter. We talked about how innovation is contextual yesterday, something that has not been tried in one area but may have been tried in another area. Is that innovative or not? That's for you to decide to some extent. But what we want to try to do today is, I'm going to be reflecting through the conversation a discussion that we began this morning at a partners breakfast that we had last night with the jurors, which is that what is the role of the World Bank going forward in supporting the winners and the finalists of the DM, past and present? What can we do to connect you with each other? What can we do to connect you to other partners besides the World Bank? But perhaps even within the World Bank. There are people here that have access to lending instruments. There are people here that have access to policy and regulatory influence. How do we connect you into an ecosystem of change? So that's what is for me to think about as the discussion goes on. But for our panelists today, I sort of want to leave them with 3 questions that they got in advance, so you're not sort of totally on the spot. But as they tell their stories, what I want them to really reflect on and reflect back to you is what really were the key enablers of their success. What were the primary challenges that they faced to execute or to grow or to sustain their idea? And third, besides money, because that in a lot of ways is what we've been able to do in the past, besides money, what's the most important thing that we can do to help you succeed?
Good morning. I'm Rick Huntley, and I'm going to facilitate us through the process. Our panelists obviously have a lot of valuable information to share with us in terms of taking an idea to scale, and we're going to focus it in a way where we can get the most valuable information we trust and move through the process, having gotten that, and then do a wrap-up. So our panelists are Tran, who is the TM 2003 winner, Southeast Asia Program Coordinator, Dean of Faculty of Biology, Vietnam. Also, we have Anna Marie Moeller, DM 2006 winner, Senior Advisor, Humana People to People, India. And lastly, we have Panos Varangis, the DM 2000 winner, Principal Banking Specialist, International Cooperation, World Bank Group. We will hear from them, and subsequently we will then hear from our discussants, who will then respond to what they've heard our panelists say, and that will be Valeria, Merino, and Alana Connor. So, to get us started, Anna Marie, I'm going to ask that you respond to the first question. What were the key enablers of your success to take your idea to scale?
Good morning, everybody. It's a great honor to be sitting here in front of all of you and to participate in this event. I have 4 key enablers that I'll talk about. The first one is to have a solid footing in the community. When you are working in a project that involves people in the community, it's important that, and if you come with a new concept, that you know people there, they have a trust in you. This is what was very important for us, because we came with a plantation of jatropha and production of biofuel, which was a completely new concept. Nobody knew about it. There was a few misconceptions about it. But to have trust among the people, that you have a dedicated staff at the site, present at the site, not a project office far away in the city, 100 kilometers away, but that you have the project office on the ground, and this is where you have, if not the team leader, you have the project leader with good communication. The third one is that you have a very good, very dynamic cooperation with the partners, if you're working with partners in the project. In our project, we have worked with Delhi College of Engineering, or what is now Delhi Technical University, for development of biofuel production, and we worked with Social Policy and Research Institute. Our two partners and us together, we have been able to solve problems. We have discussed many problems along the way. It has been very valuable to us, and we are still working with one of the partners, which is Delhi Technical University. These are the four key enablers that I would like to mention.
Thanks.
If you give me more time, I can explain something more about that.
Well, let's let the other panelists get in. What we will do also, there will be a question and answer after this, so that you will be able to answer questions. And know that we have a lot more information that we will be passing out to you about our panelists. Triet.
Thank you.
What we've been doing since we won the award was to establish a new model of nature conservation. That we are now managing a community-based enterprise that does two things. First is to protect wetlands. Second is to help the local people who are living on that wetland to improve their livelihood. So it's a combination of conservation and community development. And what we have recognized the key enabler, three things that I would like to mention here. First, it had to be accepted by the community. No matter how wonderful your idea could be, if it's not accepted, then it probably won't work. The second thing that I would like to mention is a long-term commitment is needed. Social changes take time to happen. A normal funding cycle of 1 or 2 years would be too short to bring about changes. So think about how to continue your project once your funding ended, and it's really a very difficult thing. And the third issue that I want to mention is we have a very dedicated staff. The site that I've been working on is a very remote area in Vietnam, and to have people coming to work there is not easy, and we're very fortunate to have young people, very dedicated, very capable, and have a long-term commitment working for us on that very difficult area.
Panos.
Thank you. I think the most important driver for us was to understand what were the issues. We were trying to develop a novel approach to an insurance product, weather-based index insurance that was quite novel. So it was to understand the local needs and look exactly for a product that would meet these needs. The second one, which was quite important, was to find a local partner. We needed a local institution that will buy in the idea, dedicate enough resources, and be our local champion for the pilot, and also for scaling up and continuing the work, because we had limited funding. The funding was not going to take us more than 1 year, but you needed someone that would continue the work. Related to that was the third item, which was enough training and dissemination and capacity building in this local institution. Yes, the champion believed in the idea, but we needed to make sure that they could deliver. They were very willing, and we needed to make sure that they understood what were the challenges and they were able to continue the work. And the fourth one was at the same time that we were looking at scaling up within the country, we were looking at replication in other countries. So what was important is the buying in from some institutions that they could carry this work in other countries. And these institutions, they were international organizations, they were the World Bank, they were the IDB, they were the World Food Program, NGOs, we were talking to Oxfam and the Gates Foundation, and also very important was commercial partners. We wanted to make this as commercial as possible and as self-sustained as possible. So having big reinsurance company like Swiss Re, Partner Re, Zurich Re buying into the concept and wanted to replicate it and bring it to the other countries was quite important for us.
Thank you. The second question, again, taking your idea to scale, what were the challenges you faced in implementation? And anyone can go first.
Yeah, the key challenge is when you come in with a new concept that is, for example, I'll mention from some concrete examples from our project. There were misconceptions about jatropha. That if you plant jatropha, for example, it will destroy the soil which is near to it, so you cannot grow any other things. Then you have to take your time to go and inform, meet with the farmers. We were working, we still are, we are working in an organizational structure of farmers' clubs. One club has 15 members. We are presently working with 125 farmers' clubs. You have to take the time to go around, to travel around, to meet with all the people who are involved in the project, to inform about thoroughly what you're doing, to call some local researchers to tell something more, to give an opportunity to questions and answers, so that the participants in your project feel comfortable. We did some mistakes in the beginning. Then you have to correct the mistakes very quickly. Do what is needed. It wasn't. There were different. We had different difficulties. We had bad weather. We had very low temperatures. Our plants died. Then you have to quickly take a decision to use some other money in the budget to plant many more the next time to cover up for those who died, etc. You have to ensure that the participants in the project, the farmers, that they are mobilized well to take care of the plants. You have to be persistent and stick to the long-term vision of the project. It's a key challenge when you have a project that moves over 4 to 5 years before you see the end result. So how do you do that? You have to keep the momentum going, arrange workshops, arrange exposure visits, keep a discussion going, make your project lively, stick to the vision even when you think sometimes yourself that, okay, we have done too many failures, or it's too far out, etc. You have to invent something that you really involve the people around you. Stick to the long-term vision about the local fuel production. That was that's our challenge. until we see the big results. Thanks.
There are three challenges that I would like to mention here. Our goal is for the business to be self-sustained. I mean, it creates enough revenue to at least cover the cost of running the business. We don't want to be for a profit, but because most of the benefits is channel back to the community, but at least it had to generate enough income to sustain itself. That's our goal. And it's quite a challenge to meet the goal. When we got the grant, we were told that you have to spend all of your money in 1 year. It's easy to spend the money. We all know, we buy expensive stuff and the grant will be gone quickly. But, in order for our idea to sustain, to continue after the grant cycle is ended, it's really a challenge. Now, we are in the 7th year of implementing our idea. And, every year is a struggle to find funding to keep it going. And year after year, we get better and better because the revenue is getting bigger and bigger, and it now covers about 4/5 of the total spending. So hopefully we will break even soon. And you see, it takes 5, 7, 10 years for an idea that involves social, involve local community to be at least, breaking even. The second one that I would like to mention is we face a shortage of high-level workforce from the community. In order for the project to be truly self-sustained, we have to the business had to be managed by local people. That's our beginning idea. But we don't have, we could not find the people to fill management position, technical position from the local community. We're working with minority people and they don't have that skill. So we still have to rely on people that we hire from somewhere else to come to work for the project, and it's still a challenge. And finally, resource conflict is an important thing. We protect an area, and even though it's an open protected area where people are still allowed to harvest the resources from that wetland, but we are trying to manage so that the harvest is more sustainable. Before it's an open area, anyone can come and take anything. Now it's somewhat, limited, and it creates a conflict. And solve the conflict, not easy.
Thank you.
Again, I'm about 4 areas where we had some challenges. One, that the approach was relatively novel. So it was a very low awareness among the various stakeholders, the people that we wanted to approach. And related to that is that we had to manage expectations. When people heard about climatic weather insurance, they start bringing to our attention events that they happen once every couple of years, once every 3 years. These, as you can tell, they are very difficult and very expensive to insure. You need other methods. Insurance is not the cure for events that they happen quite frequently. It's much more prevention and taking other steps. So we had to say that this is not a cure for all. This is a tool that works for some cases and doesn't work for others. And you need to think also about the whole climate issues, and insurance comes towards the end. You need to think about prevention and what can you do to prevent the event for happening. And that also had an issue, and the third issue is related to that, and this is about the climate change. It was sobering that in certain cases and in certain areas we found that severe climatic events were happening more frequently and more severely. And so climate change was an important element, and actually we had to not to get involved in certain areas because of this climatic change. And the fourth one was cost. This was an insurance. We wanted to be sustainable. We wanted to be commercially sustainable because after the project ended, this thing had to continue, or we wanted to continue. And also at the same time, we wanted to make affordable because a lot of the people who were impacted, they were smallholders, poor farmers. So insurance had to be something that did not cost a lot, yet provided adequate protection. And that was a balance, to provide good protection for low cost.
Okay. Panelists, the last question. Besides funding, what was the single most important factor for your success? And then we'll take questions.
I can't mention one single, but I have three very important things. Okay, one. Okay, the top of the three. That is that we have a very strong teamwork and a very committed team in the field, and also not only in the field but as an organization. You have to be burning for your innovation, burning for your project. And then when you have a committed team in the field, you have committed leadership, then things can work. Okay. Put the responsibility with the field team for a great part. Have a lively communication. We are into something where we have to, you have to correct things, you have to correct mistakes, you have to be creative. You can only be that when you have a teamwork. Okay, it's part of the first thing, actually. You can do it when you develop things together, when you put more minds together, when you put more energy of more people together. That is what such kind of projects they need to succeed. And we are doing that with our monthly Project Leaders Forum, where the project leaders of all our projects, they come together, present their projects, present their results, present their concerns, have an open discussion about it. That's how we get some creative energy into it. And then the third thing, that the farmers or the beneficiaries or the participants in the project, they are involved completely in what we are doing and having the long-term vision in mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Strong partnership is important. For our project, we have involved the government, academic institution, universities, conservation NGO, private business. After our DM grant finished, we got support from local business, and we got, of course, the local community as one of the partner. And for us, it's very important is the participation of Buddhist churches, because we're working with the Khmer minority people, and for them, religion is very important. Buddhist monk is very important. They listen more to the monk than to us. So by having the support from the supreme monk in the village, we can get the project message, convey very efficiently to the whole community.
Yeah, I would also say that partnerships was the most important driver, asset for the project. And partnerships, they were on two levels. On one level was a partnership with other parts of the World Bank and IFC, and that was a very important aspect to leverage on the existing resources, tap into the knowledge of the bank, the contacts of other bank units, particularly on the insurance group of the bank, and achieve a lot more than what we started doing. The second partnership was at a local level. We needed to build very strong partners and with institutions that they would be implementing the project, and they knew what they were doing, and they were needed just a small push or maybe not as small, from us in order to get moving and ensure that the project is implemented and sustained.
Thank you. Now, this is an opportunity for us to ask the panelists some questions. So if we could use the microphones wherever they might be, and we can take a few questions. Okay.
We displayed some very high-level information on each of the projects. Do you all have enough context on the projects to be able to ask questions, or do you think we should put those slides back for you up on the... You want the slides? Okay. Did you have any context on the projects before the session today? No. Okay.
Do you want the slides? Yeah, okay.
Let's at least do one by one.
Okay.
Hi, I have a question for Anne-Marie. How did you build trust within your community? If you can give some examples.
In the community where we work with our DM project, we've been working 5 years before we got this project, before we started this project. We worked with the women's self-help group, and we worked with child education. So we had a lot of, we already knew a lot of people. We had a very good working relationship with many of the local leaders, and we had good successes before. And this is the reason why we chose that particular community, the particular area, to come in with a new concept, because it was clear to us that it would be difficult if we would arrive in a completely new place where we had never been before. So this is the precondition. Now, to have the community mobilization among the, I think for this project and for many other projects that we are running, we use an organizational structure of working with people in groups or clubs, so that in this particular project we work with farmers' clubs, and those clubs, they practice common savings, like those who are Indian here, they know about the self-help group concept, that you have 15 people together saving a small amount of money monthly, and together being responsible for managing their account, and then later getting a loan, together being responsible for paying back the loan to the bank, etc. So you have a structure, you have a social structure in the groups with the farmers' clubs, and you have also an economic basis. So these are two important things. First, that you come there not as a new person, but you know the community. And the second thing, that you work in a structured manner.
Question again to Anne-Marie. Two issues. I presume these are men clubs. Yeah. If you could give us a little bit on the engagement curve, how you began and how they sort of added on the numbers, and also as the Jatropha processes where you were sharing benefits, what kind of conflict resolution you had to do, if at all, in that process.
Okay. Could you repeat the first question again? Yeah. Okay. Fine. We started with working with 40 farmers clubs, we were already working with 20 farmers clubs in the area when we started for the other types of activities. Then we added on, we formed 20 more clubs, and before the end of the project life, that means 2 years, we had 65 clubs. Now, after we have continued our project, we got another funding from Toyota Motor Corporation for 3 more years, and we are now 1.5 years into that, the second phase of 3 years. And at the present, we are working with 125 farmers clubs. And that means we are up above 1,300 participants. I like to call our farmers club members as participants more than beneficiaries, because they are participants. They are planting jatropha on their farm boundaries. Some of those who have a little more money, they also give a little corner of their land to make demonstration plots and nurseries. So that was the first answer to the first question. The second question, conflict resolution. What kind of conflicts have we had? We've been into a situation where the farmers didn't have enough water to take care of their plants. And then we have taken a decision to simply drive out with some tanks and give water. Also in cases where farmers were reluctant because they didn't want to contribute. For us, like right now, it's important to show that it can be done. What we want to do, it can be done. And sometimes we cut corners. We don't always stick to all the very fine principles that all the farmers, they have to contribute and they have to do this and that. But if they don't want, but if they don't want, then, or they think they cannot, they can't pay this extra for the water, then we go out with a water tank and give it the water it needs. We don't need to see the plants dying. We need to see examples that can lead to more participation and interest. That's number one. So I don't know if that was an answer. Almost.
My question's to all three panelists, and it's about something that none of you spoke about. And I want to ask you, what's the importance of transparency and innovation? In transparency in terms of sharing the budgets openly, transparency in terms of who's selected for the projects, transparency in terms of talking about the interventions and that. And so the question is about the relationship between transparency and innovation. How critical is that in your view and in your experience? Thank you.
Certainly, that is critical for the success of the project, especially if you're working with the local community. Part of building trust to local people is how transparent you can be in terms of how you use the money, how people are selected to participate in the project. What we have been doing is we have a committee that overseeing the project, and the committee consists of representative of the community, representative of authority at all levels, from commune to district to province, representative of religious leader, the monk. And every twice a year, the committee meet, and everything from finance to project operation was reported, and problem will be discussed and resolved at those meetings. And after the meeting, those representatives will come back to their entity, to their community and explain how the project was, happen. I think that's one way to make sure that it's transparent.
Yeah, I think transparency is extremely important. We've always had a very frank communication with our Farmers Club's members, and when we are discussing our project, we are saying we are doing this together. It's an experiment. The end result is this, and we can only do it if we do it together. We have a grant. And this is the money we have, and we are not sharing the budget with everybody. Our project team in the field knows their budget, know what they can do and what they can't do. I think transparency is extremely important, and you have to remember it. You have to keep it in mind always. Because sometimes there are things that we take for granted or the project team takes for granted, but people, participants in the project, they don't. So that's why you have to have a very close communication with the people you involve in the project. So that in our case, we have monthly meetings with all our farmers clubs, with 1 or 2 members of our staff.
We have time for one more question. I see 2 hands.
This question is for all the panelists, the ones who won last time. As we know, change is always very tight when it comes to implementing any project. You always have some resistance, especially when it deals with climate. Now we can read in newspapers, powerful nations are still having trouble agreeing that there is climate problem. How did you resolve the conflicts when you try to implement that project with political leadership or the government itself?
I mean, in part of the dialogue of the stakeholders was always the government, the producer organizations, and we were consulting with them, presenting the project, saying what were the limitations of the project, because as I mentioned, one of the key issues was the high expectations. So a lot of it was management of expectation, what can be done and what cannot be done. And get a common understanding of what we wanted to achieve. The climate limitations that were squarely put up front, we were saying that it's not a cure for all, is not going to change the way that climate impacts on the land, and you need to have a comprehensive program in addition to the insurance to deal with this event and prevent them. We were saying from the very beginning that prevention is the best way and insurance should come last. So we try to drive this concept, and I think to some extent we have managed in the countries that we were involved.
I know that there are other questions. We're going to have to pause here for this part because we don't want our session to overlap with the next. So I'm going to ask that Valeria Merino, Vice President of Ashoka, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and Alana Connor, the Senior Editor of Stanford Social Innovation Review, to provide some comments based on our panelists' thoughts.
Thank you very much. I want to just start thanking the Marketplace, Development Marketplace, and the World Bank for invitation. For us in Ashoka, it's been very exciting to be here in the last 2 days and see so many social entrepreneurs and social innovators doing things in the ground and really trying.
I think you have it.
Okay. So many social problems. Ashoka has been finding and supporting social entrepreneurs for almost 30 years. And when I was listening to all of you, I was just seeing that some of the things that you were mentioning are kind of patterns across the sector. Almost anyone that is being successful with their idea of social change has had to confront the key enabling elements that you talked. Many of the challenges are shared. So this issue that also you mentioned the most important element of success besides funding, and all of you put up front this idea of really putting together a strong team and that is very committed. And what we find that is different from social entrepreneurs doing their work from anything else is that they have this drive to stick with the problem and to get it resolved, and the level of commitment is just enormous, and they are able to get the rest of their team working with them to believe at the same level that they believe. And so this commitment is contagious. And we feel that this is very, very important, and this is something that you cannot evaluate just by reading a proposal that is sent in a piece of paper. For us, it's very important that when projects are evaluated, the leadership of the project and the people behind the project are also taken into consideration, because that is probably the one single most important element of success. And that's why we were very keen to be able to meet you in person and talk to you in the last 2 days, because it just makes a huge difference when you see a project, but also when you can talk to the person, you can ask questions, and you can also understand, what is behind the idea, right? The other two things that I will just mention that caught my attention is that you mentioned about the importance of building understanding and support at the community level. And I think that is also another thing that is being proven in any single case in which we have seen Ashoka Fellows being successful. And during the conversations yesterday, there were people that had already been doing this for 5, 6 years. They have been working already with the communities. They have already reached out with the government, to the private sector, to the media, and had that foundation present before they came with the project. And I think expecting that a project that is submitted to the marketplace, for example, but had not had that previous work done, is going to be able to be successful in a couple of years is probably not the right way to go, because it will take a while for anyone to be able to create that level of trust in understanding of what is going on, and creating a true partnership with the people that is going to be beneficiaries of. They are going to be participants. They are going to be people doing the work with you. Sometimes you come from the community. Sometimes you don't come from the community. So depending on what it is. And just to finalize it, don't take too much time. In Ashoka, we are very interested in scaling up, but we are equally interested in system change ideas. And the reason why we're interested about that is that because you may have ideas that are trying to resolve a problem, but in a very superficial way. And when you do that, probably you're going to have to keep investing in the issue forever. But if you have an idea that is system change, then at the end of a process that might take 10 years or 15 years, is not something that happens most of the time overnight, then the problem should be more or less tackled, or there will be a sustainable way of dealing with it in a constant basis. And for us, it's very important to see that the ideas are system change. We say in Ashoka that we shouldn't be interested in just giving somebody a fish or teaching them how to fish, but actually to change the fishing industry. And how you evaluate those kind of things in the proposals coming to the marketplace, I think is absolutely central for the long-term success. Like what you were mentioning, that now you have 4/5 of your budget already covered by a sustainable model. And system change then is also more prone to be replicated. in many ways. And scaling up for us doesn't mean necessarily that you have to be thinking about growing your project 20 times, but using marketing and other means to spread your idea. And I was a little bit surprised that none of you in this whole conversation ever mentioned the word marketing or dissemination of the idea. And frankly, in Ashoka, we have found that is the other absolute central element of scaling up. If you're not able to sell your idea to others, and others to pick it up by themselves, it doesn't mean that you have to go and open offices or organizations all over the place. It's just that people will look at your idea and say, wow, this is a very good idea. I want to do the same thing. And so we see replication that has grown global, like, for example, the case of Mohamed Yunus. He started with the idea of microcredit, and you see microcredit everywhere in the world, and with very different models that have been changed and adapted and tweaked around, but at the center is the same kind of idea, how you have poor people having access to financial resources. So that's, well, thank you very much. I hope this was interesting or useful.
Thank you. Alana, your comments.
Yes. I'm the senior editor of the Stanford Social Innovation Review. And you would think that being the editor of a magazine called Stanford Social Innovation Review, I might know something about social innovation. And we all do, but I bet if we went around the room and asked every single one of you, what is innovation, you'd have a different answer. And certainly we learned yesterday among the jurors that everyone had quite different ideas about what innovation is. So I'm going to start from there to address what I think innovation is and how you're doing it better than most people and how we can bottle that and give it away, to Valeria's marketing point. So innovation, right? The root is Latin. Sorry to bring in the Latin, but it means novo, it means new. So that's all innovation is it's something new. But what's new to me is not what's new to Valeria. It's not what's new to someone in the highlands of Uganda. It's not what's new to someone on the coast of New Zealand, right? And so I think that's something we have to keep in mind as we go forward in thinking about innovation, that they are, social innovation is a new solution to a problem that is more efficient, effective, just, or sustainable than what has come before. That's my magazine's official editorial definition. But we always keep in mind that new, we have this conception, especially in the United States, I think, and perhaps in Western Europe as well, that new needs to be flashy, it needs to be sexy, it needs to be loud. Preferably there should be flames and smoke involved, right? But if you look at what people are doing that's actually making a difference, innovation is quiet and it's often small. It's insurance, it's handbags, it's hedges, not to minimize what you're doing. But I think the more we can promote this idea that big changes start small, I think the better off we'll all be. Innovation is small. It's often small. It starts small. It's also it's not loud. In fact, I think this whole talking about being embedded in communities and finding out what people want, that means listening. It doesn't mean talking. Sure, you need to be able to just talk to your outside stakeholders about what you're doing, but I think a really important thing that I have learned in my position and also talking to people like you who actually do this work, the best social innovators are the ones who listen the best. So it's not this aggrandizing, it's not loud. It's also a willingness and, in fact, excitement about failing. Because to succeed, you first have to fail. How many of you like to fail? Okay. How many of you like to succeed? How many of you have failed in order to succeed? Well, there you go, right? So I think actually that's something we all need to learn how to do better, is how to fail. There's smart failures and there's dumb failures, right? Smart failures are the ones that you go into wisely. So, for example, there's this plant, Jatropha, and there's some studies suggesting that it can be used as a biofuel source. We have some evidence that we can grow this in a particular region, that it's an alternative crop or a complementary crop. Let's try it. It's not, maybe ivy would work. I don't know. Using evidence-based practices and applying them wisely, keeping your eyes open, and not losing the failure. Actually, learning the lessons from the failure. I think another thing about innovation that's often misunderstood is that people think it's fast. But I think what we learned from Mr. Tran's example, it's taken 7 years to be 4/5 sustainable, if I understand you correctly. Social change takes time. People are complicated. Environments are complicated. And I think the more that we can promote this view of innovation, the better off we'll all be, and the kind of funding we'll get to support projects over the long term. Sorry, I'm going over. I think a final point I wanted to make was about scaling. We have this idea that innovation should be big, ginormous. Who's the next Muhammad Yunus? That's a fine person to want to be. But the true meaning of scale is growing something to the size of the market that can support it. And I think keeping that in mind, as social entrepreneurs, social innovators, it's important to know what your market is. Who are you trying to, don't oversell your ideas and don't undersell them, but really keeping an eye on whom you might be able to connect to, and how you might best get your idea, get your product, get your service to that market most efficiently. But keeping in mind that not all ideas should scale to the size of the world, that some of them, sometimes we live our lives locally, we have our problems locally, and sometimes our solutions should also be local. I think that's all I had to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Elena. We have about 5 minutes. Are there any questions for Elena or Valeria?
Can I suggest that I just make a couple of comments and then leave it to you to sort of help us end the session and use our last few minutes? I think a lot of interesting points were brought up in the last few minutes by our discussants. And it's the sort of stuff, frankly, that we're thinking very hard about. What does it mean to scale? What's the right scale? Small is beautiful, big is beautiful. Does it really depend what context you're talking about? Probably. What are the different pathways to scale? I often like to think of the Grameen model versus the BRAC model. Very, very different. For those of you who know Grameen, it's Muhammad Yunus's microfinance example versus BRAC, which is also Bangladesh, which also looks at a lot of the same problems, but is the largest NGO in the world. Do all of you want to become the largest whatever you do in the world? Probably not. Should we push you to be? Probably not. But this idea of contagious ideas and infection, I like to think of it as the microfranchising example, right? You don't all have to expand whatever you're doing all over the world or all over the country even. But how do you make it so that the lessons you learn and the successes you have and the failures that you learn from can be adapted by others, so that more people can do things like you do in more places? If you think of the microfinance example, though it's been adapted to lots and lots of different contexts, sometimes that's much more effective than becoming the largest organization in the world. But at the World Bank, I would argue, we are positioned to try to encourage big things to happen. And there's a lot of organizations that can think small and should think small. I would argue we shouldn't think small. And on the slide there, I've just left a question about where should we play in this ecosystem. And I've just drawn a diagram about what you might call a life cycle of social entrepreneurship. You've got a seed phase, you've got a kind of early phase, you've got a growth phase, and then you've got a scale phase. The DM, in my view, is somewhere between the seed phase and the early phase. Sometimes it's in the growth phase, but most of the time it's in sort of between seed and early. Is that where we should be playing as the World Bank? I just leave that open to you, and now I invite your comments. The other thing that I just wanted to add on to that is that many of you have expressed a desire to stay in touch with each other. You are all finalists. You all have value to each other. If there are ways that you would like us to help you stay connected, please let us know what those are. There's a survey that went out on the first day about what tools you use, what platforms what you feel comfortable doing. We will take that on. Jurors yesterday had lots of comments that we discussed, that we said you should know what the jurors are saying, because a lot of it's constructive feedback to you. How do we get that information back to you in kind of a systematic way that allows you to keep a conversation going with some of these jurors who may be able to connect you to other funding sources, other partners, other ideas, other capacity building institutions? So I would also invite you to think about that.
Questions, comments? Please.
Hello, yes. I have basically a comment related to the energy, if we can say like that, that is involved in this room, in the sense that here you have maybe 100 or so very crazy people that some of them go to the board to the extent to be destroying their lives to do something for somebody else. And then you have an institution which is one of the 4 or 5 larger developing institutions in the world that is trying to help better lives worldwide. And sometimes here, for some of these people, they probably spending time and money, something that could be like 30–40% of the last 10 years. And at the end, the entire event only has such an amount of money to, let's say, to deliver, okay? I believe that in the future, it's more important to finance ideas in a larger scale, in the sense that you know that you have to give millions, but you can't really ensure that these innovative personnel or people manage to not get frustrated of how difficult it is to get some money, and then the bank could choose some of these great ideas and go to scale in a larger manner. What I'm trying to say with this is a larger budget for like many small grants to guarantee that these ideas come to be known, and then choose from them. Eventually, other departments of the World Bank will choose the escalation in the million scale, let's say like that, okay? Like sometimes there was a major crisis a year ago, and by the action of few leaders, 20–30 people in the world, they managed to raise hundreds of billions of dollars to solve some type of crisis. Here we don't have to raise some hundreds of billions of dollars. We have to raise tenths. $20 million, and that would be enough to make things really roll. So that's just a comment. Thanks.
Actually, I would like to challenge the World Bank because, DM is already okay, no? World Bank started the seed. But you see, afterwards, when we were abandoned by when we are trying to move forward from the early stage to scaling, I think since the World Bank started this seed, I would rather request that you also nurture the seed until it becomes mature, and then so that it will be able to solve the problems that you have also identified.
Maybe it's a follow-up, but I'm taking on from what Aleem you said and what Valeria pointed out of systems. Moving on from a seed to an early stage of work is a certain kind of system that you require, which is the pilot kind of thing. But moving on to the next level, that system inherently may not work. So when we are, some of those innovations, some of those ideas, as they move up that ladder, will need to have inputs, not really in the financial sense, but also a different kind of systemic inputs. And it's just a suggestion whether the bank would facilitate those ideas with those kind of inputs so that you can really scale up and change the systemic backbone as you move ahead.
So I'm just curious, here's just a crazy idea. What if we were to do a DM-like thing next year, and we were to reduce the number of grants that we gave, but increase the number of people we gave grants to, and gave you more access to, for example, capacity building kind of stuff? So that it's not just money, but it's like helping you manage, helping you grow, helping you attract staff, helping you develop marketing plans. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that if we have a finite amount of resources, today we're saying we're going to give it to you in cash. Cash is the most fungible. You can do with it what you want. But should we think more creatively about what's the mix between cash and non-cash? I'm just curious as to what your reactions are. What if we give you 100,000, not 200,000, but we gave more of you access to technical capacity building types of things?
It's probably like a strategic plan on a longer perspective, not just 1 year or 2 years. It might be in several forms, not just money. Probably linking us to
normally we are asked our sustainability, and we would always answer that, well, part of our sustainability plan is the strategic plan. And probably would also challenge World Bank that it has to have also a strategic plan in regard to this development marketplace. Continuing the support, not only in terms of money, but probably like, okay, it's okay, capacity building. And all the other components that did this seed to be nurtured and mature, and then later on it will really solve big problems, because we are actually talking big problems here.
Okay.
This event is under the title 100 Ideas to Save the Planet, and during this week under the participants there was a little bit of a consensus that the question should not be how many of these ideas can we afford to finance. The question should be how many of these 100 ideas can we afford not to finance. I personally believe that the scale at which the World Bank can come in and make a major difference should be on a higher level between growth and scale, because of the access to big financial resources you can make available. While I also believe, being in DC, with the right social marketing approach, we could get 100 individuals in this city who come in, each one fall in love with one idea and pay a check of $200,000 for a newspaper article and a visit to this project. So maybe rethink who could finance the seed stage and who should really be there when it's coming to scale.
I'm aware of time, and let's keep going until we're ready to stop. How do we want to do this?
Let's take one or two more comments.
Okay. So just come to the mic.
Okay.
It's Bara from Madagascar. My question is just about the last question as you put. So what is the best for World Bank Institute to organize, to invite the people to come here, or, for example, they can go on the country to do the exchange? Because for us, it will be better to go there because they are more NGO or institute to do exchange with them and to have most information. Because if you invite one NGO or two from one country, it's not good for having the best situation of the young country. What is the best for you? Thank you.
This message is, my question is to Mr. Walji. I'm working with Hanoi Department of Agriculture and Rural Development in Vietnam. Urbanization of Hanoi city has made many people landless, the farmers basically. And as a result of that, we have signed an MOU with government department that I will implement my solar and wind powered greenhouse which requires minimum land and grow the crops hydroponically for the city area. And they are looking for finance. So I'm going to give this as a case study to you, sir, if you can help us find out the ways that which subsidiary of the World Bank can assist us in funding.
One more question or comment? One more.
Thank you.
I would just...
I'll get back to you in 10 minutes.
A working session, I like it. Please.
I would just like to share that I have heard multiple times over this week positively that the World Bank seems to be offering all of us more than just a few finalists winning $200,000 or less dollars, but they've been asking us for concrete ways that we can tell them we would like to have continued support through just the seed phase into the growth, into the scale-up phase. I think that we need to all open our minds and help them help us because they want to. They don't want to just stop at the money. And so I think we can all help them and give them our ideas because they seem to me, from what I'm hearing, wanting to help us further.
Thank you.
And please don't misunderstand. Sorry, I just want to build on what you said. Please don't misunderstand. It's not to say that we don't recognize the importance of all the different inputs that you need along that pathway. We're simply saying, where are we best positioned? And one of the things that our partners told us last night, and we heard again this morning at the donor breakfast, is that perhaps one of our comparative advantages is to be that connector, is to be that convener that brings together many, many different players, including different parts of the bank itself. There are certain parts of the bank that are not the World Bank Institute that have access to significant resources to push governments to lend to do certain sorts of things. We can connect that part of the bank to some of the ideas that you have. So it's that sort of connection role that I'm most interested in, but still trying to refine what that looks like in terms of the diagram that's very rough. Where should we play?
So I'm going to ask that we give ourselves a round of applause, particularly our panelists. Three last points. World Bank staff that are in attendance, please sign the sign-up sheet outside the door so that we will have a record that you were here. Also, Anna Marie has left some additional information about her project that are also outside the door. If we run out of copies, give us your names and we'll see to it that you get it. Lastly, like other sessions, please complete the evaluations, and are we leaving them on the table? And leave them on the table. Thank you very much.